do this and really screw it up, or you could do it and do it perfectly. So, real quick, my name is Ruslan. I'm a hip-hop artist, creative entrepreneur with KingsDreamENT.com, and my journey to being a full-time artist is very long. But before I get into my journey, I want to tell you guys real quick, I just did an interview with Zuby from A3C. We talk about his journey on quitting music, and it was a 5-year journey from the moment he started making music to when he finally quit his job. It was 5 years. It took him from 2006 to 2011. Many of us want to do it right away. We want it overnight. We want to just get right into it, and that's just oftentimes not how it works. And so it takes time. And then my man Brandman Sean did an interview, also from A3C, not an interview, a video, and he talked about how there's this tension, and then people just want to quit and live their dreams and sleep on couches and sleep out of their cars. And it's like you just romanticize this whole notion of being full-time and what that really means. And like I said, you could do this the wrong way. You could do this what I think is the right way. And I think it's important that we're responsible human beings first and foremost. You know what I'm saying? So I did a ton of interviews. I talked to all kinds of different people. And I think how you quit your job is just as important as why you quit your job. So my story is very simple. I've been doing music profitably. I'm talking about profitably, getting flown out to shows, making money off music from 2007. That was the first time I got flown out to a show. I was making music 5 years prior to that without really making much money except just flipping CDs. Boom, 2007, I start making money. 2008, I'm traveling, I'm doing college shows. I had an opportunity to go full-time 2012, 13 when we had the breaks run. I had 20 or 30 shows booked. We were doing well, but I couldn't get health insurance, so I had to wait, and I didn't end up going full-time with music until 2015. And ever since then, every single year, we've grossed above 6 figures as a company. It's not what I put in my own bank account, but as a company, we've grossed over 6 figures consistently since 2015. The number one thing that I did to go full-time with music may not be what you think. Many people think it's all about blowing up overnight and going viral. There's a lot of people that blow up. There's a lot of people that go viral. There's a lot of people on major labels that are broke and can't do music full time. What I did was I got out of debt. Me and my wife paid off $45,000 of debt in 18 months. That was the first thing we did. Learning how to handle my money, growing in financial literacy was huge. So first thing we did is we paid off all of our debt. That we spent about 2011 doing that. And then after that, we saved 6 months of living expenses. And we weren't making a ton of money. We were working kind of regular jobs, but I was hustling with the music. So I was getting the music revenue built up, and I was decreasing my own overhead. So I didn't have as many monthly bills and things I was responsible for while increasing the revenue from my music. Basically, what I was trying to do was I was trying to get the ship close enough to the dock so that when I made the run from the ship to the dock, I could jump over and make it to the dock and be full-time and not ruin my life or destroy my family. And that's what I did. And so once we went full-time, I was able to scale my time up. I was able to make more money from music. I was able to just hustle, you know, and there are some hits though. I'm glad I had that 6 months living expenses, because I tell you what, we definitely depleted that. You know what I'm saying? I'm just getting that back up to a place where it's like a 3-month living expenses. Like this year, I finally got that back up. And so, man, it takes time. It takes hustle. It takes patience. It takes a game plan. And it takes you being creative with your sources of income. So I'm going to bring in some of the Patreon community to see if they got any specific questions on this. And then I want to have my boy Canvas share some of the hustles he does behind the scenes. So does anybody from the Patreon community got a question on this? There's a little hand raising tab, or you could just raise your hand and I could just, what I got to do is I got to pin you and then cut the switcher to bring you into the chat. So, anybody, or should I just bring in Canvas and let him talk about his hustling?
I was gonna say about.
Hold on. Let me pin you. All righty, there you go. Okay, go ahead, Trutha.
So you talked about health insurance, and I heard you talk about that before. If like, and I believe it was through Obamacare having that.
Yes.
If that wasn't a factor, like if you didn't have, like if Obamacare never happened, how big of a factor would that have been in you being able to be to do full-time music?
You know, by the time I went full-time, there had been other alternatives that sprouted up as a result of Obamacare, meaning that there was like these like Christian companies that you pay into, and then like when you need money out. So I got a lot of entrepreneurs now, they don't have Obamacare, but they do these other alternatives. that work just as well. You know what I'm saying? And they're a little different. So like I think it would have been closer because, but I don't know. I don't know if those would have been around if it wasn't for Obamacare, because those were kind of in response to Obamacare. But yo, for me, our health insurance, to have health insurance for my whole family off the market was like $1,200 a month. $1,200 a month. And because there's just no way I would have been able to afford an extra $1,000 a month on top of like holding down my expenses. And so we were able to afford, I think now we pay $400 for our whole family, and we have like a pretty cool Kaiser Blue Shield plan, or no, excuse me, not Blue Shield, Kaiser like silver plan. I got knee surgery. The knee surgery was like $10,000. I paid like $2,000 out of pocket. It's like a cool plan. You know what I'm saying? So for me, that was super duper necessary, man. And I'm glad that I got it. It probably would have been inevitable, but that was one of the things that like a lot of people hate on Obamacare, bro. But it was really important for us to go full time. So that's a great question, bro. Anybody else want to chime into this before? Hold on. How do I unpin you now? Here we go. Gallery view. No? Oh, Kunle? Okay, let me pin you, bro. Boom. All right, go for it, bro.
Hey, so my question was, how tense was it as you were flying back and forth and taking time off from your job and then doing those shows? Like, how was there any tension when you were taking like 5 or 10 days off from work to do that, or did you like juggle it? How did that happen?
Yeah, well, that's what kind of forced me into having to quit my job, right? Is it just got too much? Like it was just like, bro, like, come on, fam. Like you gone for 2 weeks on a tour here and gone for 7 days here and just taking off like random weeks. We couldn't keep doing it, and so that was another reason. So basically, what happened is I was on a tour in 2015 with it was called the Southern Junkies Tour. It was me, the Dream Junkies, Alex Faith, and we were in New Mexico, and I could just feel the tension at my job. I was working at my church. That was my last job, I was working at my church, and I could just tell that like, yo, like this isn't good. You know what I'm saying? Like they're not with it anymore. And so I called my wife and I was like, hey, like, do you think we could pray about quitting when I get back? We can start praying about it. And she was just like, I don't think there's anything we need to pray about. I think you need to put in your 2-week notice. And so it was my wife that really had the faith to push me out there. And it was kind of like my job was kind of like sitting me down like, oh, what do you really want to do? Like, do you want to go this church ministry path? Do you want to do this? You know what I mean? And for me, I knew I didn't want to be in ministry. After having gone into ministry, I knew I wanted to do music, and I'm glad. But my hand was forced. You know what I'm saying? Like I had a son and I had a wife and I had a church that I was working at that cared about me. But like my hand was forced and I had to choose. I just was like, oh, I don't know what I want. This seems safe. This seems, you know what I'm saying? And so, so I was, how old was I? I was like 29 when I went full time with music. No, I just turned 30 when I went full time with music because my son was 29. Yeah, so he'll be 5. Yeah, so I've been full time with music a little over 5 years. He's turning 5 this year. So,
okay, wow.
Yeah, man, that's a great question though. Let's see. Do you guys have any other questions before I bring in Canvas? Because I think what Canvas is going to talk about is super important. Let me bring you in 350.
Yo, man.
Give me 1 sec. Hold on.
You good?
Shoot. Oh, I just messed this up, didn't I? Boom. There we go. Okay. Go ahead, bro. Good to see you, man. Good song tonight.
What's up, man? How are you, man? Thanks. Appreciate that.
Where you based out of? I'm just curious.
So I'm from like, it's called the Rio Grande Valley. It's like 5 minutes from the Mexican border in Texas.
Oh, okay. That's what's up.
So like, I don't know if you heard, like Donald Trump was here like a couple months ago doing all that crazy stuff. But anyways, so my question was, so you have streams, you have syncs, like as far as royalties through, TV shows and all that. You got merch and touring. Like, is there any other way to make revenue? Like any other source of income besides those, 4 main things, like in music?
Yeah, that's great. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry, go. When can you kind of discern when that's like the time to do it?
So which ones do you know about? You know about obviously streaming, you know about selling, you know about shows, and what else do you know about?
Syncing, like
Music syncs?
royalties.
Yes.
Yeah, music syncs, and then merch and in shows. I think that was it.
Yeah.
You got it.
Yo, you pretty much nailed them. You pretty much nailed all of
That's
them.
it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I try to see if you could build all of them up as quickly as possible. You know what I'm saying? So one of the things I made the decision back in 2010, 2011, I'm not using anything with samples in it. Back then, cats could use samples and you could still get your stuff on iTunes, right? I'm talking like Nina Simone samples. I'm talking like whatever, like classic samples. I made the decision not rapping to any samples, right? Now, the issue with a lot of artists is it's not about samples. It's about YouTube beats, leasing beats. Some rappers just steal beats from SoundCloud producers flat out. You know what I'm saying? What you run into is you can't sync those. You don't own the rights to those. You don't own the masters. So I intentionally made that decision early. So by the time that opportunity came around, which first it came around with a company called Marmoset, they took on some of our stuff. They didn't do really well. And then finally, I was like, all right, I'm going to give Music Bed all of my catalog. I only had like an album or two on there. And Music Bed was consistently delivering like $1,000 a month for like one album, you know what I'm saying? And it was like good. And then finally I was like, I brought my whole catalog over, and that's when I really started seeing the money increase from the sync licensing. So the sync licensing is like your money in commercials, your money in TV shows. Like we just had an old Dream Junkies song go on a Google commercial that Issa Rae was in. It's all over Instagram, you know what I mean? And so to answer 350's questions, when do you start focusing on them? You start focusing on that stuff as soon as you can start focusing on that stuff. Start owning, if you know that like this is what I'm gonna do for the rest of my life, consider who's producing the beats, consider the publishing side, consider those things. And when you're buying a beat, an exclusive beat, do you own 100% of that publishing? Does that person want a percentage of that publishing? Because if they own a percentage of that publishing, it's like you had a baby together. And if that song blows up, that person is always going to get paid when you get paid off that record. MusicBed is the service that represents us for sync licensing. Syncs are huge. You could do a sync for $100, $500, $1,000, $10,000. So I could put out a record in 2015, 2014. My record Due for One from 2015 still makes me sync licensing money more than it makes on iTunes, Apple Music, Spotify, and everything else through DistroKid or TuneCore. So syncs are super huge if you own the music and if you don't use samples. And I would encourage everybody, like, the sooner you can get into that, or the sooner at the very least, I'd say, like, I recommend a lot of artists learn to produce. Like, I don't think that's as confusing and complicated as you think, but if you don't have the ability to do that, at least working with a producer that is gentle on the publishing, meaning like a lot of producers are going to want 50%, you know what I'm saying? But if you're working with a producer, maybe they'll give you, okay, cool, I'll do 25%, you know what I'm saying? If you're going to lease beats, try to build a relationship with the people you're leasing beats with in case you get on Artlist or MusicBed. And so, man, the sync licensing game, that is huge. I would say right now, syncs probably hold down like 60% of my revenue every month. You know what I mean? It's through sync licensing, maybe even more than that. And then it's Apple Music, and then it's YouTube and Patreon. And I don't even do many shows like that because I don't have to. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm not like, I'm at a spot where like I don't think I'm going to do any shows unless I can bring my family with me, because it's just not worth it. Like Levi's 5, he's developing super quick. It doesn't make sense. So to answer your question, 350, the sooner you can build those revenue streams, the better. You start by developing proper infrastructure. You start by having songs that you own the rights to for syncs. You start by by just doing stuff properly in the beginning, so that you're not in a spot where somebody owns your music. You know what I'm saying? Somebody owns your music, you don't control it. And then shows, like, there's two ways to do it. Build the content, build the story, build the music, build the brand, and wait until stuff comes around. Or pick up the phone and start calling people. Pick up the phone and start calling youth group. Pick up the phone and start calling colleges. Pick up the phone and start calling venues. Start knocking on doors. You know what I'm saying? Hey, like, next time such and such artist comes through, can I open up the show? I'll sell 30 tickets. Like, you could go one of those two routes for shows. You know what I'm saying? I've done both. I don't pick up the phone to go and try to pursue shows. Like, me going to A3C this weekend was cool, but it didn't do a whole lot for me, and that's why I made sure I got a ton of interviews. You know what I'm saying? But I'm not in that spot where, like, I'm just going to pull up to South by Southwest for 4 nights and spend $1,000 on a trip to network. Like, that's just not where I'm at. But maybe you are. You know what I'm saying? Maybe you need to pick up the phone and just start doing stuff for shows if you're good. And so it just two ways you can look at it: build the brand and fund it yourself, or build the brand and pick up the phone and try to hustle and network. I am in a spot where I'm not picking up the phone. I'm focusing on the same thing every single day. I'm in a routine. I have the most amount of fulfillment and freedom in my routine. I'm not trying to sit here and do 150 shows a month. You know what I mean? So all that stuff should be picked up. You're not going to make money off shows for a while. I think most people can make money off syncs if they're good and they own the rights pretty early. And I think Apple Music, Spotify, it's just how much clout you got and how much replayability, how deep your catalog is, and just how good you are. So that's another variable. You know, like someone like Paul Russell, man. Like Paul Russell out the gate, you know, a year and a half into doing music. No, it's been a year. He's been a year into doing music. Like he has a song with Lecrae that he's making publishing from. He has multiple music bed checks coming in. He's getting Spotify, Apple Music money. Paul's probably making like $1,500 a month off of music. You know what I'm saying? Paul doesn't need to quit his job because he wants to live a certain lifestyle. He wants to live in LA. He wants to have a nice apartment. So he's not going to quit his job yet. You know what I'm saying? He's going to wait until that ship is close enough to the dock. So when he makes that jump, he's safe. You know what I mean? Do you got a follow-up question for that, or does that answer your question, 350?
That's it, man. That's it, man. Appreciate that.
All right. We're going to bring in my man. We're going to bring in a homie. What's up, bro?
Yo, what's good? What's the difference between syncs and royalties?
Royalties are music from Apple Music, Spotify. That's a royalty. A selling of an album, that's a royalty. A sync is a company, maybe a sync house, a representative, a publishing company syncing your music. So you get an upfront fee of X amount for the publisher holder and the master holder. And then obviously the company gets a cut. So for us, MusicBed gets 50% off top, no questions asked, before anybody else sees a dime. So that, you know, but they do great work, so they can have their 50%. I have no issues. You know what I'm saying? And we're exclusively signed to MusicBed for our catalog. Boom, they get 50%, no questions asked. And then also, like, if this song ends up on TV or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like if their show ends up on TV, we'll make a slight royalty through ASCAP, but it's very, very small. I'm talking like a couple pennies, you know what I'm saying? That kind of thing. So syncs and royalties are two different things. You're basically just getting an upfront fee with a sync.
So where's the money coming from with syncs?
It's coming from the movie, the commercial agency, the production house, the YouTube channel that's putting on the content. They're saying, hey, we want music. The homie's saying, we stumbled across this stuff from Spotify. What's it going to cost to use this record? Or, hey, we got $1,000, take it or leave it. You know what I'm saying? So we had a record from 2008 or 2007 from a Breaks record that landed in a Steph Curry docuseries. And it was like, we got $1,000, you know what I'm saying? And it was me and Belief and a producer. So we split it 3 ways. You know what I'm saying? So we made $333 each for a record from 2007. You know what I'm saying? Because we weren't using samples.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If you were using a sample, that's it. You're dead in the water. You're not getting that sync license.
Yep.
Yeah, man. Great question. Anybody else want to ask a question about this before I bring in Canvas? Those of you guys that are in the Zoom call. Okay, Truther. Let me pin you. All right,
this
go
is
for
a
it.
quick question.
Yep.
It's about the producer that you work with. So a lot of times people that I work with exclusives, like it's more so just what is the upfront that I'm paying for the beat. We don't usually discuss like publishing on it. So how does that typically work with people that you just, you know, you build a relationship with and they just make a beat for you, you like it and pay them up front? How do you work out the publishing side of that?
So you had that conversation up front. If you got a relationship with a super poppin', like I got a relationship with MusicBed. You know what I'm saying? Anybody I do music with right now, I'm not paying for beats. I'm not paying anybody anything for beats. Why? Because I produce my own beats and because I know I'm going to make a gang of money off the back end of the catalog. So like me and Ray Rock are doing an album, and Ray Rock would normally charge me like $200 to $300 a beat. You know what I'm saying? I'm not paying $3,000 for 10 beats from Ray Rock, but we're going to do it together. It's a 50-50 production split. So it's like, yo, I got the relationship. I'm the artist, and we're doing like a 35-65 split of the back end, meaning everything that comes in from Apple Music, Spotify, DistroKid, iTunes, he's getting 35. He's getting He's getting 35% of that, and then MusicBed is going to pay him directly 35% of that. It's a real clean split. I'm not paying him anything up front. That's a big take. 35% is a lot, right?
Yeah.
So if I was saying, all right, I'll give you $100 a beat or $200 a beat, I'm not giving him 35%. I'm giving him 10% at that point. You know what I'm saying? But that's my boy, and I want him to own the music with me. I want him to own 35 cents for every dollar that comes in. I want him to get that residuals forever, so I'm okay with doing that with him because, you know, but if I was thinking business, I'd be like, bro, I'll shoot you $100 a beat, you know what I'm saying, and I'll give you 10% publishing. And some producers will do that. You know what I'm saying? If you're paying $300 a beat exclusive, $400 a beat exclusive, I would be upset if I had to give up publishing on the back end. You know what I'm saying? It just depends on where you're at. So I think you got to have that conversation up front. A lot of producers nowadays, they'll be like, yo, just give me the money up front. I'm not sweating it. I know if you're buying exclusives through Airbit, I think you own the publishing. Because Curtis King came out and told that and kind of, you know, was like, yo, the paperwork is sketchy. You know what I'm saying? And was trying to get them to fix it. So I think that's why he went over to BeatStars, is because they were unfortunately selling away people's rights to beats.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Took away the exclusives.
Yeah, so you buy an exclusive and 2 Chainz stumbles across a YouTube beat, buys the exclusive for $500, and then that record does $500,000 and the producer doesn't get anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's the downside, right, of depending on how the exclusive is structured. Most producers are going to want some publishing. Like I leased a beat. The last time I've ever leased a beat was on Indie Jones 1. It was for the song Clock In. It was produced by The Crates. I think I paid them like $100 for the deluxe lease, and then I gave them 25% of the publishing through MusicBed, paying them directly for Clock In. That was like as clean as it could be. And that almost didn't happen because they had just signed a publishing deal with Sony. So I would have been dead in the water if I had to go through Sony to get it would have been a mess. You know what I'm saying? So be careful with who you use as a producer, guys, because that stuff really does matter.
So basically, if it's a guy I got the exclusive from and I paid them up front, it's more so of a courtesy in a sense to include them in if you're trying to build a relationship. But like say I just buy the exclusive, but I don't really know the person like that, and they don't say anything, and I just move forward. Like, how does that work? Because that's where that's why I just want to make sure I'm clear. I don't want to step on any toes. I don't want to mess up any future relationships, but I want to make sure that I move forward on different ways. To
ask for paperwork, get a little contract, or put together a little contract. You know what I'm saying? And make the contract say that you own the rights. You know what I'm saying? And see if they push back. You know what I'm saying? They may or may not push back. I would say most producers that you're buying exclusives from on a handshake agreement are probably not sweating the publishing from sync licensing until you know your song is used on a big commercial, like the Google commercial we just did. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got to circle back around and pay everybody for that. You know what I'm saying? So and then that could get even more complicated because they're like, they could be looking at me crazy, and I'm like, yo, I don't get paid for that till November. You know what I'm saying? So like they might be like, yo, what's up with this Google Issa Rae money, you know, from Dream Junkies catalog? And I'm like, bro, I haven't gotten paid on that. You know what I mean? So that's another thing, is like, you want to be, you know, but I made that record with my homies, you know what I mean? So I'm gonna make sure, like, if I get a bag, we all get a bag. You know what I'm saying? So that's right. The part is we gotta weigh your options. You know what I mean? And you gotta make sure that you're even gonna get there, because if you're not in a place where your music is quality enough to get synced, or if you're in a place where your music is too Christian, right? Yeah. That's going to be an issue. For example, Paul Russell kills it on the syncs. John Keith doesn't do so well on the syncs. John Keith is more overtly Christian in his music. Paul is more ambiguous. When you're looking for music as a big publishing house, as a big YouTube, you're not trying to do super churchy Christian music. You know what I'm saying? So unless you're like a church syncing music. So you have to consider that kind of stuff as well, man. Is like the content of the music. So syncs are huge. You know what I mean? Okay, let's move on. Does anybody else have a question about this before we move on? Okay, Curtis, I'm gonna bring you in. What's up, bro?
I'm just wondering, if you have like an unlimited lease, are you able to sync with that?
So that's what I had with the Crates, and I had to get them to sign off on it. No, I had to get them to sign off on it. I had to get them to get paperwork done through MusicBed directly. I had to get him to sign a contract. Like, it was like it made the process of me getting the record onto MusicBed longer because it was an outside producer.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that's it.
Word up. Okay. Anybody else got a question on the quitting job type stuff? No? Okay, sweet. I'm going to bring in Canvas. Canvas is a fellow entrepreneur. Why I appreciate him is just because he's always thinking of different ways to hustle and make money and just not approaching stuff in a typical way. Now, here's the thing. The question on if you quit your job, shouldn't quit your job, whatever. I think that the real question is, like, I knew my entire life that I was going to eventually be an entrepreneur. I was eventually going to work for myself. So I worked jobs that weren't exhausting me and killing me to the point where I couldn't do stuff, right? And so I would do stuff like I had real chill jobs, a lot of jobs that I could do music stuff on. So that's another option for artists is like, don't go and get the 90-hour-a-week job at AT&T just because it can pay $80,000 a year. Like, go get a fun job at the YMCA making $25,000 a year. You know what I'm saying? So that you could have the energy and the creative force to still pour music out. What I love about Canvas is that he was like, yo, excuse these boxes, but this is what I do on the side. So tell people what you do on the side, bro.
So on the side, I sell on eBay. And so my wife, it's getting a little harder now that it's getting colder. But it's not our main income, so it's not like we need it. But what we do is every Saturday we would go out in the summer and do garage sales, and we'd spend literally the whole morning. It's like a cool date because you get $100 or $200 together, and you go out on a Saturday and you just buy people stuff for $1 or $2, and you sell it on eBay for $30, $40, $50, $100. We literally made $100 on a $5 bowling ball that some kid sold us. It was like a SpongeBob bowling ball, and my wife actually takes all the credit because we were like about to leave that garage sale, and she's like, "Wait, I saw this bowling ball." So she went back and grabbed it. It was like a $5 bowling ball, sold on eBay for over $100.
Let's go.
Yeah. So it's realistic, man. But like, so to give a little bit of background, I'll try to be brief. So my wife and I both work full time. I run a business full time. I'm a locksmith by day. I'm involved in my church. I do music, and the eBay is just kind of like a side thing. Our first month, I think, with eBay, we made like $600 that month.
Okay.
And just doing a couple Saturdays that month. And
you said how much? $600 first month?
Yeah. Just
go.
Like doing a few Saturdays. But we spent like the whole morning just going. We hit the town sales, and we would literally go to like 20, 30 houses at once and just hit them all.
Yep.
Gary
V
vibes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. So we actually watched Trash Talk, and we were watching Gary go hit up all the garage sales and get the Hot Wheels, Disney animals, all that stuff. It's legit.
Yep.
So what I did was, before I was a locksmith, before I started my business, I always had the skill set because I grew up doing it with my dad. My dad was a locksmith. My dad is an immigrant actually as well, from Germany. So he came over, started a business. And I moved out here when I got married about 2 years ago. I had a job at Mercedes-Benz. I was selling cars for Mercedes-Benz. Easily would have been a 6-figure job had I stuck around. But here's where I'm going to kind of pose an ultimatum. If you want to do music, if you want to be independent, if you want to be an entrepreneur, and you are willing to do everything yourself, like Belief talked about, like doing the taxes, doing the dirty work, booking your own stuff, doing everything. You can handle that. If you can't handle that, don't do it. Like, the only reason I am not working for someone else is because I can't work for anyone else.
Come on.
Because I will literally suffocate if I work a job at I'll die of a heart attack at 40 if I have to work at some company.
Yeah, man.
If you can tolerate that with your life, if you can be happy working for somebody else at another company, nothing wrong with it, no shame in it. If you're happy doing that, making a good stable income, getting your 2 weeks of vacation, a good 401k, do that. That's way easier, in my opinion. Like, you know what I mean? If you can do all this stuff yourself, it's a big deal. So what I did was, I was working like 60-hour weeks selling cars. I wasn't seeing my wife a lot. It was our first year of marriage. And I was like, man, I can't really do this. I really want to start my business, but I can't do it while I'm working here. So I literally talked to my wife, and I was like, I really think I can make this business a success because I have the skill set. I know the market.
Yeah.
And, I just got to take a chance. So we took a chance. I quit my job. In sales, you don't really give it 2 weeks because they don't really want you to stay if you're going to leave. So they kind of told me, all right, you can finish out the week and then you can be gone. So I left. for that year after that, there were times where we did not know how we were going to pay our rent. There were times where our church actually stepped in and helped us out. There were some really scary periods in that time where I probably should have had a bigger cushion before I went and took that leap. But it ended up working out. And here's where I'll say this: if you're married, you and your wife got to be a team. Amen. Like my wife held it down, and you know, my wife was going to school and worked a part-time job at night. And you know, I worked at Sheetz, a gas station. It's a gas station, and I would go work on my business during the day, and then I'd go work at Sheetz until like midnight. I get off, and I just do that every day. And so I worked at Sheetz because Sheetz was a job I could just dip out whenever I needed to. So that was just to get a little bit of money coming in to pay the bills and get some groceries while I was building my locksmith business. And then my wife landed a full-time job. And now I don't need to take a salary from the business, even though I could if I wanted to. But I just put it all back into marketing. I put it all back into feeding the advertising. And then you know, the eBay thing it's really realistic. I wasn't putting in a full-time effort to eBay. If you put in a full-time effort to eBay, I guarantee you could make at least $2,000 a month. No problem. Like no problem. You could stock up during the summer and you will have a room full of stuff that you can sell all through the winter if you live in a place where it gets real snowy and icy. Yeah, man. You could have bins of Hot Wheels, bins of stuffed animals, sell them for literally. I bought a box of Hot Wheels for like $5, $2. Little kids giving away their whole thing. There are one Hot Wheels in there, like multiples that are selling for $30, $40, $60 a piece on eBay. So anyway, I don't mean to drag it out, but all I'm saying is it is realistic, but you have to decide if you're willing to put in the work. It's not easier just because you're the boss. Like if anything, it's harder because you're the boss. Because when you have a manager and you have a job and you work for somebody, there's somebody else to blame and put that responsibility on. Absolutely. When you run a business, every failure, every bad review, everything that goes wrong is on you. And it's your fault. So that's all, man. There's a lot more I could say about it. That's probably a whole other discussion.
I would just add to you what you said, bro. One, flipping. This is what I've been doing as a hobby lately. I've actually haven't made any money off this. I've just been poking my foot in the water. We have a Nike clearance store. And it's in Alpine, which is like east of San Diego. And I've been going there on Thursdays or Fridays. And the Nike clearance store gets a lot of like really dope shoes that for whatever reason that they don't sell or whatever. So you can get you get some J's on there for like $70, $80. And then you could pull up the GOAT app, punch in the number on the box and see what the latest offer was for the shoes. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And see if there's a demand for them. That GOAT will tell you what the value is.
That's dope.
And so we finally went this past Friday. We got there early. We got there at 9:30. The store didn't open until 10. There was already a dude lined up out there. And then by the time 10 o'clock rolled around, there's probably about a dozen fellow immigrants, all showed up. And my boy Marcus is like, yo, this is like all immigrants. This is weird. And these brothers all showed up. And they were, they all had the app. And they walked in, all the premium stuff they grabbed. Then they scanned it all one by one. And there's dudes in there that are making $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month flipping shoes. You know what I'm saying? Flipping shoes.
And I would have done shoes if I know nothing about shoes at all. So I stay with what I know, but there are a lot of people that, man, I was like, I need to learn shoes because shoes are such a big money maker, man.
Yeah. And so I'm learning shoes not because I necessarily want to make $1,000 or $2,000 a month doing shoes. I just want to make enough. Yeah, one, it's fun and it's a cool hobby. Two, I just want to make enough that I can I can buy a nice $300, $400 pair of shoes every month or every other month, and it doesn't come out of my pocket. You know what I mean? And so there's just so many different ways people can do out there that, yes, maybe you can't learn you can't be a real estate agent or you can't whatever, but you don't have to work a crappy sales job where you hate your job, you hate your life, you know what I'm saying? And you have no time for your art. You could find that balance and find that. But I think to your point, you said you wish you had more of a cushion. I'm super glad I had a cushion. You know what I'm saying? I met with the entrepreneur.
No cushion.
I met with the entrepreneur this week, bro, who him and his wife had 11 different streams of income. So he was walking me through all their different streams of income. They had everything from they own their own publishing company, so they had put out 20 books in the last 10 years. They had owned their own publishing company. They did Amazon drop shipping, which was a whole nother hustle I'd never heard of.
I remember that
where you buy stuff at bulk from Amazon, you store it in from China, from Alibaba, AliExpress, you store it, and then you figure out where the market is, and then Amazon fulfills it for you. Amazon takes a cut. So there's just like so many different ways of hustling now that nobody out here has to be broke. You know what I'm saying? You just gotta do the work. You gotta do the work. So, yeah, man, I appreciate it. Does anybody else got any questions, anything to chime in that they think will add to this conversation on a YouTube? Because we're going to wrap this stream up and go to a private Zoom call with just the people in the community. But okay, Sane. So I'm going to pin you real quick. Somebody asked, why MusicBed, not DistroKid? MusicBed and DistroKid are two different things. I just explained, my G. MusicBed is for sync licensing. Sync licensing is for movies, TV shows, commercials. That's how you get your music to make money after you release it. DistroKid or Stem or TuneCore is how you get your music distributed to the DSPs. All right, so okay, the homie. Whoops. Boom. Let's go. I like that thing in the background, bro. It's very Russian of you. Russians do that kind of stuff. They put carpets on the wall.
No, that's Kelly's. But yeah, so it's not really a question. It's more Canvas was saying something. I forget his wording exactly, but I caught on and like that. It's not about ease, it's about the desire. Like whether you work your 9 to 5 and work for somebody else, that's going to come with its own difficulties and pluses and minuses. Whether you work for yourself, and that's going to come with its own pluses and minuses as well. So it doesn't really matter I shouldn't say it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter which side you take when it comes to difficulty. It's the matter of what you want to be doing. You shouldn't be trying to quit your job because it'll be easier to be a full-time artist or full-time whatever, work for yourself, or you shouldn't stick with your job because it'll be easier to make money or be easier anyways. It's not a matter of ease. It's a matter of what you should be doing. And it's, you know what I mean? It's a matter of, you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, so what you're saying is don't be consumed with the road of least resistance.
Right.
Do the hard thing, but be wise in how you pursue the hard thing.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so you're doing catering right now?
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. And so you were like, yo, I'm making way more money doing catering than my last radio job, right? Yep. And I'm assuming that catering isn't this like creatively exhausting thing that like you work 2 nights and you're like, I don't want to do anything, I'm so tired, right? Like a sales job for me would be like that. All my willpower would be exerted trying to sell. I would overthink it. But like catering, and you between tips or whatever, you probably make pretty good money where you can then have the creative capacity to keep making stuff.
Right, and that's the whole thing is I build my own schedule, not to one, like you're saying, I make more money, but two, if I don't want to work a Thursday or Friday night, I'm not going to lose my job because I can't or don't want to work that night because I'm busy writing or creating or whatever. When it comes to the radio job, I have to go into work every day at the same time, punch a clock, in and out. And where if I can't or don't want to work one day, I'd lose that job because they're like, if you don't come in, you're fired. So you need that job with the flexibility to be able to make your money, to be able to grow your music. And then once you have that money, like you're saying, get that ship close enough to shore, keep working that job, keep grinding and pushing. And then once you're there, then that jump is a lot easier because that job isn't so time and mentally
exhausting.
Expensive.
Yeah, man. And it's different for everybody, right? Like my initial plan was like, oh, I'm going to be a substitute teacher. You know what I'm saying? And like there's substitute teachers that can make $200 a day and they could sub 2-3 days a week and then they could do their side hustle. You know what I'm saying? If you have a BA in California, you just need your CBEST. So there's just multiple ways to get there. I just think it just depends on the individual and what they want to do. But I don't recommend anybody works a job that you hate. You know what I'm saying?
Can I add one more thing, man?
Yeah. Hold on. Let me bring it. Nobody should be like in 2019, 2020, nobody should be working jobs they hate. That's just not the climate that we're in. You know what I'm saying? Hold on real quick. Something's going on. I just messed up. Dang it.
You had one job.
I had one job, which was to bring you into the stream, and I screwed that up.
It's all good.
Okay, I'm just gonna full screen you. Go for it.
All right, cool. So yeah, I mean, also in the meantime, I was also driving for Uber for a while.
Yeah.
Which
Yep.
that was a big thing. I don't know how lucrative it is now because it may be more saturated than it was. I was driving for Lyft. I was putting in some late weekends, and you know that was kind of cool. But also, I want to touch on something he said because that's really important. If you have a 9 to 5 and you have a salary, you can slack a little bit. Like you can slack just enough where you'll get by and you'll still get your paycheck, but you won't get fired.
Yep.
If you're running your own business and you're not putting in 110%, you are losing money. Like if I'm a locksmith and I don't answer the phone or I don't answer a message or I don't take a job or even if I can't figure out the job, like I don't make money that day. Like that's straight up. Like you can't afford to let your foot off the gas when you are like running a business. When you are at a 9 to 5, like when I was at Mercedes, there were days like I was just like, I don't really feel like doing much today. I'll still get my my minimum commission or whatever. So that's another important thing. If you're gonna do it, be ready to know that it's not like you're getting a regular paycheck. You have to fight for every dollar that you're getting, and so I think that's really, really important.
There you go. That's what's up, man.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, those of you guys that are in the YouTube, if you guys want to hop in this call, I'm going to end it publicly. And we're going to talk just a few more minutes about whatever the guys want to talk about. But thank you guys so much for liking. What do you guys think? I mean, where y'all at in the comment section? Let me know. Are you guys looking to quit your job soon? Is this something that you're not sure about? Let me know because I do care, and I want to hear from you guys in the comment section. Thank you so much.